Well, I'd like to welcome everybody here. If you'd like to find a seat or if you'd like to stay in the back, that's fine, but there are more seats available up front. Get situated there. Hi, buddy. How you doing? I'd like to say welcome to everybody. My name's Gary Dorenzo. I'm the Director of Community Relations currently. Obviously, I was the former athletic director here for many years. So all of our inductees I probably have either went to school with or was the athletic director for each of you. So I'm excited about today for many reasons, personally and professionally, but this is an absolutely wonderful group of inductees today, and we're very proud of them. On behalf of the school district, I'd like to specifically point out our Hall of Fame committee members that we go through this process throughout about a 4-month time span each year, and you know, right, so far this is our 3rd class and it's been relatively easy. We expect to have some challenges down the road, but I'd like to acknowledge them for their dedication, their time, and the fact that they still appreciate Pottsgrove and everything that Pottsgrove has meant to them, and also to make sure that we celebrate our incoming athletic classes. So if we could have our members of our committee please stand up. I know they hate that, but yes. Stay up. To my right is Mr. Al Leach. He's our school board president. To my second right is Mr. Dave Ward, former teacher and coach here at Pottsgrove. How many years? 40? 42. 42. Sydney Coleman Marshall, class of 2008. 10. Just trying to get her a little older. We have a few board members. Mrs. Patty Grimm, I saw. Patty Grimm right there. And our superintendent back there taking a picture is Dr. David Finnerty. So again, I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you very much. I also like to thank our school board because they support this program. And again, we started this 3 years ago. We have their blessing, and I think it's important that we remember our alumni, and specifically we do an alumni honor roll that really celebrates our achievements in the world of their careers, but also our athletes, and obviously that's a very special place for me. Also, Mr. Ansbach is currently our athletic director. As you can see, we both are about the same height, so it's really a job criteria here. Like, the shorter you are, the longer you'll be here. So he does a tremendous job. Behind me is Megan Van Buskirk Harlan, and she is remote in California, so she will have a few remarks because she's one of our inductees. And I'd also like to say congratulations. She's expecting her second daughter in a couple months, so that's why she's not here. So, welcome. Before we begin our introductions, I'd like to repeat a story that really kind of emulates what this program, how it came to fruition. And I do it every year, but I think it's important. A number of years ago, I came across an old acquaintance. He was a former professional baseball player that enjoyed a tremendous career. He was a 3-time All-Star. He played in 2 World Series and enjoyed national success as a Major League Baseball player. Throughout our conversation, he was reflecting on his career and what the game has given him and his family. When he made the most profound statement, I asked him what his most proud moment of his athletic career, and without hesitation, he said being inducted into his high school Hall of Fame, which to me kind of really resonated that, you know, when you look back, I mean, you grew up with your peers, etc. Oftentimes you move away, but to be recognized by your high school that really just like made us more made this such a more important piece that we make sure that we recognize these student athletes. So that's became our goal. So with that, I would like to say thank you to 2 other people. First, PCTV. So for those of you that have relatives that are not here or were not able to make it today, Mr. Tellis will post this on the PCTV network as well as our website at pgsd.org. We'll have that in a few days. And also our caterers were Bausch Catering. They do a fantastic job, so I'd like to say thank you to them. I think I see one former inductee back here. That's Mallory Green. She was in our first class. Mallory Green, take a little, yep. Also in that class was the 2012 Boys Cross Country State Championship team. Gina Bianchini Fuchs, class of 1998. Roxanne Merja, former teacher coach here, class of 1981. We're going to see her counterpart this afternoon as well. Kurt Wrigley, class of 1979, and Randy Burkert, class of 1978. They were our first class in 2000. 2001 inductees, Jill Burkert Detweiler, so that rings true. There's a brother and sister in. Chris Beasley, class of 92. Sheila Valentine, class of 1995, and Brent Carter, class of 2006. So with that, this group is about to join some very esteemed company, and I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Ansbach to introduce our first inductee.
Again, thanks for being here. Outstanding day for everyone involved. Congratulations to our inductees. Megan Van Buskirk Carlin, powerful, explosive. All coaches want these qualities in an athlete, but ask any coach and they'll tell you that more important than the preceding words are the following: determined, competitive, and kind. Megan Van Buskirk epitomized both the first and second set of words. Coach Recton recalls Megan tearing down the runway, flying through the air, hitting the sand at the end of the jump, brushing off her legs, quietly listening for the result to be announced. Then, whether the number announced was good or bad, she would calmly walk up the runway and get ready for the next attempt. The only objective was to get better on the next jump and, of course, win the event. Megan was a truly gifted athlete with innate speed and explosiveness, but she also had the internal drive to be her best. Longtime coach, girls coach Charlie Owen recalled Megan's work ethic and desire to improve. Her prowess in the weight room was legendary. She never missed an optional Saturday practice and even came to summer training sessions. Coach Frank Scaltrito, Megan's event coach, recalls Megan stopping him in the hallway in early September and asking when they could start training. Coach would answer, "As soon as you want, Megan." This drive to get better is evidence of many of the medals in the Pioneer Athletic Conference, districts, and states. In 4 years of PACs, Megan took home 7 out of 8 possible top rankings in the long jump and triple jump, including back-to-back PAC and district champions in the triple jump. In 2005, her junior year, Megan set the Pac-10 championships meet record in the triple jump. At the district championship one year, Coach Scaltrito recalled overhearing 2 other coaches from opposing schools talking about their own athletes' chances in the triple jump, wondering, that kid from Pottsgrove, is she the real deal? As they have never seen her compete. After Megan's first jump, a huge 38 foot 11 inches, there was a loud whoa from the crowd. The 2 coaches looked at each other and one said, "Well, that settles that," and walked away. Megan was a 5-time qualifier for the state meet in both indoor and spring track in her 2 specialties. She won 4 state medals in the long jump and triple jump, with her highest being a 2nd place medal in the triple jump at the indoor state meet her senior year. Megan still holds 4 Pottsgrove school records for the long jump and triple indoor and outdoors. She continued her track and field career at the University of Penn, where she earned a degree in nursing. Megan worked for 7 years at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia in pediatric oncology before moving to San Diego, where she works at Rady Hospital. Megan also earned her certification as a nursing coach in integrative health nutrition. Megan and her husband Eric and their 3.5-year-old daughter are anxiously awaiting the birth of their 2nd child this July. Congratulations, Megan. Megan will be joining us remotely.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for the kind words. And this is such an honor. And while I wish I could be there in person today, I am just so happy and truly grateful for the opportunity to be joining virtually. This has been a really fun opportunity to take some time to reflect back on my time as a student athlete at Pottsgrove and my journey with track and field, and in retrospect, just how unexpected of a journey it was for me. When I began track as a freshman, it was really more of a social thing. I was a competitive gymnast at the time, and I had started playing field hockey and lacrosse in middle school, but my freshman year, when the school sports schedule interfered with my gymnastics schedule, I wasn't able to play anymore, and I had some friends try to convince me to run track. And at the time, I just thought, I don't even really like running. Why would I do that? But I was willing to give anything a try. And at one of the first practices, I was told by a coach, oh, wow, you're a gymnast. You'll be a triple jumper. And I honestly had no idea what that was, but I was happy to know that track was not only running, and I was excited and eager to learn more. And that decision to give it a try really ended up changing the course of my life. I can still remember my first outdoor meet my freshman year, where I was just bopping around from event to event, and I ended up doing more events than was allowed per athlete. But I quickly learned that throwing wasn't for me, and that sprinting and jumping maybe were, and so I was really able to hone in on those events. And it was such a natural and gradual journey from that point on, as I learned more about the sport and tuning into my own body and my competitive nature. But I really have the coaches at Pottsgrove to thank for helping me to spark that passion and for just giving such incredible guidance and creating the right balance of training, because if it wasn't for them, I probably would have never stopped to breathe or take a rest. But my 4 years of track at Pottsgrove really helped to set the foundation of living a healthy and active lifestyle. And while I haven't competed in over 10 years now, although I have not ruled it out of my future, I just continue to carry the passion and dedication that I learned from track into my everyday life. Track really helped to shape the trajectory of the rest of my life, as it led me to the University of Pennsylvania, where I continued to compete for 4 years at the collegiate level as I prepared to begin my nursing career. And after spending 8 years working at the bedside as a nurse, I was able to carry my passion for healthy living into my career by becoming certified in integrative nurse coaching and integrative nutrition. So ultimately, as I reflect back on my time as a student athlete at Pottsgrove, it's really the support of the team and the coaches that stand out the most and just had such a huge impact on my life and where I ended up. But I think back to the spirit and the camaraderie day in and day out, with practicing year round, from sprinting through the hallways for winter track to spring track practices out on the old gravel track. But I can now look back and really say with confidence that it was Pottsgrove that helped me to set a strong foundation and helped me to reach my fullest potential. So I am beyond grateful for that. And then before closing, I just have to mention my biggest fan. So for years after graduating, I would get texts from my dad every track season, keeping me up to date on Pac-10 track, and of course, any potential threats to his daughter's record. And unfortunately, he passed away 5 years ago. So I really miss getting those texts. And I'll be honest, coming in today, I wasn't even fully aware whether, what the current record was and if my record was still holding. But I really wish that he could be here today for this special day. And I just want to say thank you to my mom and sister for being there. And really just thank you to everyone for this incredible honor. It really means just a tremendous amount to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. To accept Megan's plaque is Mother Mrs. Van Buskirk. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Mr. Dorenzo back to the stage for our next inductee.
Megan's going to look over my shoulder now. That's like every student's nightmare. Our next inductee is actually a contemporary of mine. That's not to say that she's old, but she graduated in 1981. I graduated in 1980. And that would be Kathy Joe Winterbottom. She graduated in the class of 1981, having earned 10 varsity letters over the course of her high school years, which included 4 for basketball, 4 for softball, and 2 for field hockey. She was honored for her outstanding abilities in leadership and athletics when she was awarded Pottsgrove's Female Co-Athlete of the Year with former inductee Roxanne Merja, also in 1981. Kathy Jo's leadership was also evidenced by the fact that she was the co-captain of both basketball and softball teams and played all Chestmont basketball team for the years of 1980 and 81, as well as earning all Chestmont in softball in the team of 1981. Her accolades are extensive in field hockey as well, where she served as co-captain, was the team's leading scorer, and was named MVP. She was recognized All-Chestmont team in 1979 and 1980, and was awarded the Tri-County Old Timers Association Player of the Year. After graduating from Pottsgrove, Kathy Jo attended Iowa Wesleyan College, where she received a hockey scholarship. She was the leading scorer in 1983 and 1984, as well as team captain in 1984. In addition to hockey, Kathy Jo played basketball at the collegiate level, where she again rose to the top of her sport, scoring over 1,000 points, leading her team in assists all 4 seasons, as well as leading the team in steals for 3 years. After graduating from Iowa Wesleyan, Kathy Jo's leadership, dedication, and commitment was evidenced in her career as a Pennsylvania State Police trooper, which she retired from in 2012 with the rank of captain. Please honor and welcome Kathy Jo Winterbottom.
Thank you.
Let me hold this for you.
Yeah, it's a nice picture, huh?
Your yearbook picture.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Members of the selection committee, guests, family, and friends. I appreciate and thank you for being here today to share this day with me and my fellow inductees. I attended a Catholic school until we moved to Pottsgrove when I was in 8th grade. There were no scholastic sports for 8th graders back then. Growing up with 4 brothers, naturally I was a tomboy. In 9th grade, I learned there was field hockey in the fall. I had never heard of field hockey before, but I used to play street hockey with my brothers. They always made me be the goalie. I think they wanted to torture me with slap shots, but at least I got to play. I thought field hockey couldn't be much different than street hockey, right? Well, I was wrong. The majority of our JV team were freshmen, all of which had never played field hockey before. If any of you have ever seen a field hockey game, don't be embarrassed to admit it, that you don't understand why the official blew the whistle. We were playing the sport and we didn't understand the rules. We weren't good. No, we absolutely stunk. We lost our first game 9-0. I don't think we won a game that year. However, as the years went on, we continued to improve. We did not have a winning record until my senior year. Then we were pretty much unstoppable. We were tied at the top of the league with a 7-2 record with only 1 game remaining. In our final game of the year, we played Coatesville. They had a 2-7 record. We lost 3-0. They knocked us out of league contention. Physically, we were prepared, but we were overconfident. We finished with the best record Pottsgrove had in 12 years. Then came basketball. As I said, there were no interscholastic sports for 8th graders, but there was intramural basketball. I learned to play basketball on the streets with, of course, the boys. The violations in street basketball basically were fouling and traveling. And naturally, we just called the violations ourselves. So now I'm going to participate in intramural basketball. Intramural games were played right after school. Most of us just wore our school clothes, which were long pants, and back then, maybe even bell bottoms. I remember chasing loose balls during games, grabbing it and sliding on the court. There was never any call for traveling. I thought traveling was taking steps without dribbling the ball. Then I get to 9th grade. Now we're talking serious basketball. Remember, I didn't know the rules. All I knew about were fouls and traveling. I learned quickly that I couldn't slide on the floor with the ball in my possession. That actually was a violation. In another game, while I'm on defense, there's a whistle for a 3-second violation. I initially thought it was called on me. I'm like, what? Because I was always very cognizant of not hanging out in the lane while on offense and defense. After a few games, I realized the 3-second violation only pertained to the offense. I never admitted that to my coach, Coach Baker. We didn't have a winning season until my senior year. Although we didn't finish at the top of the league, we were at least competitive. So then the spring comes softball. Do I need to say it? I learned to play baseball with the boys. I was the first girl to play on the Little League team when I was 12. I was the starting shortstop. So naturally, I decided to play softball my freshman year. It was the first year Pottsgrove had a softball team. We were the Bad News Bears. Since it was the inaugural year, we needed a field. They made us a field at the middle school, which is now Lower Pottsgrove Elementary on Buskirk Road. They lined the grass, put bases on, and erected a backstop. Backstop was probably only about 5 or 6 feet high. Needless to say, the field was bumpy, which was somewhat beneficial to us as the home team because we kind of got used to that. The backstop, well, we had to make sure there were plenty of spare softballs because the balls would go over the backstop and get lost in the woods. We had to take a bus from the high school to our field for practice and games. When it was over, the bus would take us back to the high school. There were times when the practice was done early and we might have to wait a while for our bus ride. A couple of us would decide that we'd just walk back to the high school. But we didn't have to walk too far because we hitchhiked back. We always got picked up. I don't think Coach Baker ever knew that either. I sound like a broken record, but again, we didn't have a winning season until my senior year. We finished the regular season in a tie for first place with Downingtown. We had a playoff for the championship and unfortunately lost 3-2. We earned a berth in the districts and lost 3-2 in the 10th inning. When Gary notified me that I was nominated for the Hall of Fame and requested information from my athletic career at Pottsgrove and college, I had to dig out some dusty newspaper articles. As I went through the articles, I found this one that the committee must have read that convinced them to select me to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think it's from my sophomore year. I'll read it quickly. Headline, Lionettes Romp. The St. Pius X Lionettes outscored Pottsgrove 16-0 in the third quarter and went on to a 37-10 win over the host Falconets Tuesday afternoon. Pius, which is 6'2" in the Chestmont League, was up 10-4 after one quarter and 16-5 at halftime. Carol Glutz had 20 points to pace the Lionettes. Kathy Winterbottom was high scorer for Pottsgrove, record of 0-7, with 3 points. So, committee, thank you for recognizing my achievements. None of us get here by hard work alone. I would like to thank Kathy Baker, who was my coach in all 3 sports for the majority of my high school career. She was instrumental in my development as an athlete. I want to thank all of my teammates, because without them, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. And last, but definitely not least, my family. Unfortunately, my mother and father are no longer with us, but I know they're proudly watching from above. And 2 of my brothers that are here today, John and Paul, thank you for your never-ending support. And John's the one that was hitting the slap shots at me. I am honored and humbled to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think I can speak for the inductees. We chose to be athletes because that's what we wanted to do, not because of any accolades we may receive just for doing what we enjoyed, playing sports. Thank you. Thank you.
Like that picture, right out of your book.
That's not my high school. Is that my graduation?
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's not graduation. You took it
That's your
differently.
senior picture.
No, it's not.
You look a little different.
No, that's not my senior picture. That's a different one.
Congratulations, Kathy Jo Winterbottom, once again. Thank you. Our next inductee, Jermaine Thaxton, was a member of the Pottsgrove High School graduating class of 1998. His athletic endeavors at Pottsgrove awarded him with 7 varsity letters, 3 for football and 4 for basketball. In basketball, Jermaine scored an impressive 1,190 points, served as team captain. He was also Pac-10 in 1997 and 98. His football career boasts quite a number of noteworthy accomplishments, including rushing for over 3,000 yards. But 2 of those back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in his junior and senior years. During the 1996 and 97 seasons, he was recognized as all Pac-10 first team. During his senior year, he was served as the captain of the team and was prestigiously named one of the top 50 Pennsylvania players in 1998. After high school, Jermaine attended Valley Forge Military Academy for 2 years, where his athletic talents continued to shine. In football, he ran for over 1,000 yards, had 58 receptions, and 16 touchdowns. He led the basketball team in scoring, rebounds, and steals both years. He then received a full scholarship to West Virginia University, where he played linebacker, strong safety, and wide receiver prior to graduating in the class of 2003. This is impressive. Following college, Jermaine continued to engage his passion and talents in athletics. He played 12 years for the Tulsa Talons in the Arena Football League, where he won 3 championships, 2 undefeated seasons, and he also spent 2 years coaching at the University of Tulsa. If you look at him today, I think he still might be able to play a little bit. Mr. Jermaine Thaxton.
Congratulations. Thank you. Back here.
Thank you. I'm not going to be up here long, I promise. First of all, I'd like to thank the selection committee and everybody that had a part in the Hall of Fame event. I'd like to thank my teammates, my coaches, and all of my family and friends that supported me throughout my high school career. When I first came to Pottsgrove, I played youth football from like 8 to 13 or 14, from peewees to midgets. And I played 1 year of 7th and 8th grade basketball, and I came off the bench. Before coming to Pottsgrove, it was like a light switch. I became like a superstar, a rock star, I should say. My freshman year, I played varsity basketball. Wasn't too good, but I had, as a freshman, I don't know if you guys know Howard Brown. I had to cover Howard Brown as a freshman. And of course, he's like the best basketball player in Pennsylvania at the time. I played 9th grade football, where I excelled as a running back, where I actually went out for wide receiver because I've never played a skill position. I played offensive line as a peewee through youth football. And for some reason, Coach Montez, which he's not here right now, for some reason he wanted to try me at running back, and here I am. I like to give a special shout out to Jimmy, who was my teammate as a football player and a basketball player. He was actually my quarterback. He threw me my first touchdown pass at my 10th grade year. Thank you, Jimmy, for putting me on the spot. I like to thank Coach Pennypacker. He pretty much made my dream come true of being a Division I athlete. So I thank him for that. And I want to give the roses to my brother. He pretty much prepared me for high school football. You know, before then it was just me and him throwing the football in the next door neighbor's dirt yard. Basketball-wise, wintertime, we're shoveling the basketball courts, playing basketball, just me and him. He the one that put the battery in my back. He was the competitive one, and you know, if you have an older brother and you're competitive, you never want to let your bigger brother beat you. So once I got to Pottsgrove and after my 9th grade year, it was over for him. There was no more winning for him at all. So I'd just like to say thank you to Pottsgrove for everything you've done for me, and that's it. Thank you.
He's exactly as happy as he is today that he was then. He might have been one of the top 5 guys that just loved to play and loved to be around people. So congratulations, Jermaine. Next up, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dave Ward to introduce our next nominee or inductee, Mr. Jimmy Sermonero.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenzo, and a special thank you, because I was there from the very beginning when this all came into an idea to the final fruition the way that it is now. You have done so much work and put so much into making the Pottsgrove Athletic Hall of Fame a success and source of pride for all of us, everyone. Today, I have the very special privilege to be able to introduce an outstanding 3-sport athlete who performed at the highest level during his Pottsgrove high school career. I felt a short comment from each of his coaches would best show his talents, knowledge, and competitiveness. I could speak, but I feel that they are much, much better in terms of having the experience that they did with Jimmy. In basketball, Coach Ralph Worley states, Jim was an intense competitor, an excellent passer with great court vision, a tough rebounder, and able to hold his own against much bigger opponents. He got us many clutch baskets and was a dependable free throw shooter. His baseball coach, Mike Kirkeschlager, summed it up this way. Pottsgrove was down 5-4 to Glen Mills in the district playoff game. Tony Vitaco was on second base, and Jim, the player the coaches would most want up in this situation, steps up to bat and delivers a clutch hit. Unfortunately, Tony was out at the plate on a real close throw, but Jimmy came through in the clutch. And as Mr. Kirkeschlager said, Jim was also an excellent pitcher to go along with his outstanding batting skills. And finally, in football, where if you had to pick a sport, in my opinion, where I got to see him play a couple times, in football, his talents would take him on to play defensive back at William and Mary. Jim Algio was his quarterback coach. And he says Jimmy stands out for his combination of intelligence, athleticism, and character. Coach Algio rates Jimmy as one of the top 3 players he ever coached in his 27 years. He states, Jimmy was our starting quarterback and free safety. In our offense, he thrived with his ball handling skills, outstanding speed, and running ability. Jimmy's most memorable game is somewhat bittersweet for Coach Algio as it came against my alma mater and his family at Lansdale Catholic. LC was ranked 4th in the state at the time, and Pottsgrove knocked them off in overtime. Jimmy scored in overtime, and on the game's final play, he blitzed, forcing an errant pass and securing a huge win for the Falcons. Coach Algio says, my brother, who is Lansdale Catholic's defensive coordinator, had later said, we made the decision to go for 2 points because we just couldn't stop Sermonero. In summary, to read Jimmy's accomplishments are most impressive. I'm not going to read them now because I've talked enough, but it's unbelievable, unbelievable. Any athlete would be proud to have just one of those sports as their achievements. I myself enjoyed talking to Jimmy to prepare for today. He's an impressive young man, and I'm not going to go into all the neat things that I found out. Jimmy still quarterbacks, but in a management position for the Nokia Telecoms company. So he's still a quarterback. I now present to you one of the most outstanding Hall of Famers, Jimmy Cermanero. Jimmy, excellent, excellent. Here, man, I want you to set it there. And then I'll put that there. And I'll get out of your way. You got it. Thank you.
Wow, what an honor. I'd like to thank the committee. This is a true honor for me, my family. And thank you for announcing me after Jermaine. He kept it nice and short, so I'm gonna keep it short myself. You know, being a Pottsgrove Falcon is one of the most important things in my life. I grew up going to these Friday night games under the lights, idolizing, you know, multi-sport talents, Chris Beasley, Brian Shallcross, Eric Rigner, Jerry Steinmetz, Billy Hawthorne. I mean, the list goes on and on. Pottsgrove produces some of the finest athletes, not only in the area, in the entire state. I had the privilege to play with the likes of Jermaine Thaxton, who pushed me every single day. I could go on and on about the memories me and Jermaine shared on the field, in practice. Mr. Ward, Dave mentioned the Lansdale Catholic game. That was my Al Bundy moment. For those that don't know, 4 touchdowns in 1 game. So I have those glory days to look back on. Jermaine had the other 2, but I had 4. You had 2. We managed to come out on top, double overtime, 42-41. It's one of the greatest games and greatest memories I had at Pottsgrove. A couple other ones, beating Springford our senior year. A huge one, never losing to Pius, never. It's just, it's some of the greatest moments of my life have been here at Pottsgrove. I want to thank my coaches, my teammates, my friends and family. I had the greatest support system you could imagine. I love you guys. Lynn, thank you for being here. It's my sister's best friend. She may as well be my sister. But I'm just truly blessed to grow up in this area, to have role models to look up to. Pottsgrove is my heart. I mean, this is where it all started for me. Similar to what Gary said about that all-star player, this is probably the proudest moment of my life. So.
Here, Jimmy. Oh, that's a fumble. The Sermonero family, another first family in Pottsgrove too as well. Brother David here had a tremendous career, so hopefully one of these days we'll be seeing you up here do a little speech too. Our next inductee is, without question, the finest female basketball player this school has ever seen. Actually, she was transformative. But I'll let Mr. Palladino, and I forgot to see you back there because I didn't know you were back there, but Steve Palladino's one of the members of our committee as well, and he's here to introduce Dana Weems.
First, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees today. But our next inductee from the class of 2002 is Dana Weems. Also being a member of the class of 2002, I'd like to share a quick memory that I have of Dana. I remember my sophomore year on the boys basketball team, we were waiting to take the floor after a girls' practice. I was not at the steel double doors, which was by the locker room with the majority of the team. I was on the opposite side of the gym with a few teammates by the side entrance door that had the glass window, and we're peeking in towards the end of the girls' practice. That year, the majority of the starting varsity team were all upperclassmen, and most of them were seniors. The girls were ending practice with a scrimmage, and Dana's leadership was just on full display, even in her younger days. There she was in total control on offense, breaking down her defender and driving confidently to the hoop. Immediately on the other side of the ball, she was providing intense amoeba-like defense with quickness to recover from every dribble and blinding speed to double the ball handler on the next pass. Every person on the court knew that she was the key to the team's success, and all she had to be was herself. I remember on that day thinking to myself how evident it was that Dana belonged on the court despite being an underclassman. Over the course of her illustrious career here at Pottsgrove, Dana was a varsity starter for all 4 years. She received all Pac-10 team honors during each of those 4 years, and incredibly, was also named the Pioneer Athletic Female Basketball Player of the Year in the same 4 seasons. Dana led the Grove in scoring during her sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. She was also named the Mercury Player of the Year in 2001 and 2002. All these accomplishments helped Dana earn honorable mention for the McDonald's All-American team, and also helped her be named one of the top 20 best female basketball players on the East Coast. But probably the most rewarding accomplishment is owning the top spot, if you go into that hallway just down there, as the all-time leading scorer in Pottsgrove history for both males and females, finishing with 1,634 points. When Dana was asked about her fondest memory of her Pottsgrove career, she quickly pointed out her freshman year and her first meeting away with rival Pottstown. Pottstown had a 2-point lead with about 9 seconds remaining, and they also had the ball. The home crowd was raucous, anticipating a victory and bragging rights. After the ball was inbounded, Pottstown looked to kill the clock or anticipate a foul. Then the unthinkable happened. Dana stole a pass, dribbled it to the other end of the floor for an and-one layup, and hit the game-winning free throw. Certainly a worthy memory. After high school, Dana attended Westchester University after time at both Alvernia and Harcum College. Dana was named the PSAC East Player of the Year during her junior season, and she was also won All-American during her junior and senior seasons, as well as the team MVP during both seasons. Today, Dana is an assistant superintendent for a construction company, as well as a real estate agent, but she still enjoys staying active and continuing to play ball. Please join me in welcoming Dana Weems.
I'm gonna keep it short. I was supposed to write a speech. Clearly, I did not. So I'm just gonna wing it. I want to say thank you to everyone here at Pottsgrove. Pottsgrove, I had a blast here. Definitely, my first time competing here was amazing as a freshman. My family, my mom and dad, my siblings, is way too many of you guys to name you all, but for your support, thank you so much for always being there and picking up the slack when I had to go to practice and do other things, sport related. I want to say thank you to the Hawthorns too, as well. I want to say thank you to Molly Green and Danielle Murray for being my teammates forever and my friends forever. Mr. Green, also, and can't forget your name. You're my #1 guy. Yes, you, Martz, Mr. Martz. They were the first people to actually help me start playing ball, like organized basketball. When I grew up, I didn't really have a basketball court and stuff like that. I had like a crate that I cut out and was shooting hoops that way. When I came to Pottsgrove, the first time I picked up a ball in the gym, I had on sweatpants. And Mrs. Hawthorne saw me, and she's like, who's this girl with these sweatpants when I'm playing basketball in this hot gym? I'm like, well, I'm supposed to wear shorts? I don't know what I'm supposed to wear, like, you know? So from that moment on, Pottsgrove just pushed me into a place that I never really saw myself going until I saw myself reaching for it. So I just want to say thank you to everybody here, the committee, and all my Pottsgrove fans and family just for the support. And like I said, I was going to be short, and I definitely winged it. So thank you.
And lastly, our last inductee is the largest group, which is the 2008 boys soccer team. And really, this is an outstanding team. And I know you say, like, there's moral victories, et cetera, but this team was the best team in the state of Pennsylvania 2008. They played a state championship team in driving rain that I have never seen before, and I can't believe they didn't stop it. They actually took us inside, and they stayed out and played. They hit the crossbar maybe 4 or 5 times, and I don't think the other team got past midfield maybe twice. A tremendous team, and really they were a group that stayed together, played together, and they were fun. They were a fun team, and to introduce them as their classmate is Sydney Coleman Marshall.
Shorter than you. Oh, all right. Thank you and congratulations to all of our inductees. I'm actually really excited to announce and induct you guys. I actually finally can induct the class that I've been to school with, so I can say I've actually seen them play. But I also really remember hearing y'all's names on the school announcements in the morning when they're all talking about the stats and winning the game. So that's kind of one of my biggest highlights from there. But this soccer team definitely had an accomplished year. They finished their season with an overall record of 19 wins and only 4 losses, during which they outscored their opponents by 88-19 and then posted an impressive 11 shutouts. They averaged 3.83 goals per game that year, and then their defense held their opponents to just under 1 goal, 0.83 goals against them per game. So you kind of wonder how a team as a whole can be super successful in a season. So I did ask Coach Wachowski why he believes that they were so successful. His response was, they were more like a family than a bunch of great individual soccer players. You know, there are a few sibling sets on the team, and most of them grew up playing together. No one thought that they were more important than anyone else, and they played for each other first. So during the season, 8 team members were named All Pac-10. John Price was named Pac-10 Player of the Year, wherever he is. There you go. The team was ranked number 8 in Southeast PA by the Philadelphia Inquirer. They received the Summit Team Award this year. Coach Jay was also honored as the Pac-10 Coach of the Year. And then ultimately they were the PIAA State AA runner-up team. So all of these reasons and more, I'm very honored and happy to award team members Alex Abdallah, Nathan Krieger, Remington Mark, John Price, Tyler Waters, Sam Carlson, Ethan Compton, Bobby Price, Jordan Klinger, Aleem Wentz, Austin Ewers, Josh Klinger, Kyle Reddick, Corey Reddick, Muhammad Amir, Brian Price, Brandon Nowitzki, Mike Brown, Coach Kevin Grimm, Coach Jeff Erb, and Coach Jay, their Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, come on up, guys. Come on up. Very shiny. I was driven. I realized through these guys and the friendships and the trust, and that's what it's really about. So thank you guys. All right. And I still see one of the best things is I still see these guys hanging out and come to the games and I get to see them. It's special.
So you're gonna make me do this, huh?
Yeah, you can do it. He can't do it because we'll be here like an hour.
No, it'll be serious. So, like I said in the introduction, we were 19-4. The season before that, we were 11-7. We qualified for the districts for the first time. We went into that game and got our butts kicked. I think we ended up losing that game 4-1, and the goal that we scored, they scored on themselves. But they came.
Yeah, thanks for the memory.
But we came back next year, and we didn't know what to expect. I think the league, in our area in the PAC, they thought, hey, these guys are up and coming. We're playing against some bigger schools. We had some success. So preseason predictions within the league were we should be okay, but I think in the area, a lot of people discounted us. We went on to win our first 9 games. We were 9-0. I think we, at that point, had scored 50 goals, something to that effect. And then we ran into Springford, who was, I think somebody had said earlier, they weren't very good, right? It's a game that we should have had fairly easily, and we found ourselves down and ended up losing that game. And I think at that point in time, we lost that game. Any notion that we were getting full of ourselves went out the window, because now they're like, wait a minute, we're not going to go undefeated. We finished the regular season as the #1 seed in PAC, which meant that we got to play in the stadium at O&J, because back then the PAC playoffs, the 1 seed got to play in the stadium, and the 2 seed got to play in the upper turf. So we got to play Boyertown, a team we had beaten during the regular season, a team we should have beaten in the PAC semifinal. But can I say it because Alex isn't here? Alex Abdallah, who is not here, was a young defender for ourselves, and ball was coming in, and goalie was coming out, and he decided he was going to go out for the head ball. He didn't quite get it because he's a little guy like Gary, and it hit the top of his head and went over our goalie's head and went in the net. So that we were famous for in that PAC playoff over the years, scoring on ourselves. It was a theme to come. In the district, so we go into the district playoffs, right? We qualify for districts, and probably losing that pack playoff game and not getting to the finals was probably a good thing for us because it gave us time to regroup and train. And we trained hard for those 2 weeks leading up to the district playoffs. We go in and we play Octorara in the semifinal, and our friend Jordan had quite the game, scoring. You had 2 goals for us that day. That day we won that semifinal game was also the night that the Phillies won the World Series for the first time in 28 years. So I can clearly remember the bus ride home, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bus driver had the game on because it was getting late in the game, and so we're driving up 422, and the final out, and the bus was going nuts. And then we go and we meet Holy Ghost in the district final, and there's a quote going into the district playoffs that I pulled out of the Inquirer at the time and had little signs made up as motivation for these guys, and I still have the quote. And going in, it said, Keith Pompey, if anybody follows the Inquirer, he now is the Sixers beat reporter, said, "You should feel sorry for the other District 1 AA teams. It's unlikely they will beat the Firebirds," right, the Holy Ghost Firebirds. And we go into that game, and they were better than us, and they were way better than us. I mean, we spent the first 20 minutes on our heels, right? And they were just throwing everything at us. We had a really tough defense, but they spent most of that 20 minutes in our half of the field. And I guess with about 18 minutes left in the first half, ball pops out, and Ethan Compton just hits a low line drive, hits the back of the net. And we're like, well, okay. A couple minutes later, 8 minutes later, Bobby Price puts one in the net off a feed from Sam, right? Yeah. So we're up 2-0 at halftime. And, Kevin and I are standing on the sidelines, and we're like, hey, wow, we're starting to feel pretty good about ourselves. And these guys were all happy. And we go into a halftime speech that shocked me, right? Because you would have thought we were down 3-0 and playing terribly, right? Coach Witt just laid into these guys and said, made them feel that they weren't playing hard enough, right? That if they didn't play harder, we weren't going to win that game. And to his credit, these guys came out and played such an impressive second half because, Holy Ghost just did not let up. They just kept coming and coming and coming. In the end, we beat them 2-0. Funny thing about that is they had hired a videographer to video the game going into it, and they didn't want the video after the game.
We bought it, yeah.
We bought it at a discounted rate.
They did tell me before the game, they said, you guys can get the video too if you want. And I was like, all right, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. And then one of the proudest moments for me as a coach was, unfortunately, Mr. Dorenzo couldn't be there that night. I remember calling you we were at Westchester East, calling him up and saying, you have a district champion. Like, we're moving on. And, so we get into the state tournament, and our first game's down in Philly, playing Archbishop Wood. And again, throughout the whole season or that postseason, the Inquirer, Keith Pompey, kept saying, okay, Archbishop Wood's going to win, so on and so forth. And we just never doubted ourselves. We weren't cocky. We weren't, overconfident. We worked hard, and they worked for each other. Like we said, it was a family, and there was no egos on this team. I think I'm going to say this: the biggest issue we probably had were Bobby and Johnny, and it was brothers. You talked about your brothers, playing against your brothers, your siblings, and stuff like that. They were hard on each other. They were hard on each other. So, but we get with each game we got a little more confident. Like that Archbishop Wood game, we gave up a goal. The next 2 games, we didn't give up a goal. They said it. Like we gave up 19 goals in 23 games that year. Unfortunately, one of those goals, the only time we were shut out was in the final. And as Mr. Dorenzo said, I mean, I've never been involved in a game in elements like that. I mean, the rain and the wind was unbelievable. And you know, we had some chances that unfortunately didn't go our way. Last couple of things. You know, we talked about family. In that team between the JV and varsity, in that roster, we had 7 sets of siblings. You know, that's, you usually get 1 or 2. We had 7 sets of siblings. So it truly was a family, you know. Everybody was playing for each other. In terms of the recognition, right, so I think somebody said, you know, we did get the Summit Award that year, and that's a team award, you know, because we worked together as a team. In the Pac-10 from the coaches, right, Johnny, Ethan, and Tyler were first team. Jordan and Sam were second team. Honorable mention was Bobby, Josh, and Remy. Most valuable player was Johnny Price. He also got Southeast, All-State and All-Southeast. From the Mercury, first team was John Price, Ethan, Jordan, and Nathan Krieger. Second team, we had Tyler Waters, Sam Carlson, and Bobby Price. Honorable mention was Josh Klinger and Remy Mark. Player of the year was Johnny Price. Coach Witt got Coach of the Year. From the Inquirer, All Southeast, Johnny got second team, which is probably BS, but. And then team ranking, you know, we were, if you go back and you look at the rankings and stuff like that, we were never ranked. When we got to I think the state semi, they finally put us at 10, and then we finished up at 8. Johnny Price also, you know, so scoring-wise, right, we scored 88 goals, right? Johnny probably had about a third of them. He had 25 goals that year. Bobby had 15. I think Ethan had 13, if I remember correctly, something like that. I think you were the 3 that were in double digits.
Yeah. One. That was the one that mattered.
Yeah.
That was in our goal.
But Johnny also was NSCA, which is the Soccer Coaches Association, Adidas Regional All-American. He was also made the ESPN Rise Greater Philadelphia area. And that year, in the end-of-year athletic sports banquet, Bobby Price got the Outstanding Athlete of the Year, which is by far the coolest looking award that we give here. So that's it.
All right. Got the hook? You have the hook, Gary? I'm the last one up. You can't do it. I just want to say, as far as the coaching staff and us, probably the most pleasurable team that we would ever coach, ever. This group assembled here. You talk about family, you talk about team, you talk about pride of Pottsgrove. This is family first, team second, always and forever, guys. You were the most pleasurable group to be able to coach, easiest guys to coach, did everything you wanted to do. I can't say from all the years that we've had together that this will never be replicated, ever. It will never, ever be replicated in a high school soccer. And I want to congratulate you guys for your accomplishments. And thank you for letting me coach you guys for those years.
Yeah, come on, guys. Grim, you still make those guys do 1,000 jumping jacks?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our class of 2023. And I'd like to say Congratulations to all of our inductees. At this time, we're going to kind of move down to the gym area, and we're going to unveil their plaques with a real quick ceremony. And then if anybody would like to take a tour around the building, if you have not already seen it, please let us know. You're more than welcome to kind of check out some of the new building, because none of you were here as it's been renovated. As I've already been told, we spent all the money after you left. Also, real quick, if you want to stay in touch with us, there's a little piece here. Connect with us, and we'll connect with you for upcoming events. That might have been the shortest speech from Kevin Grimm that has ever taken place in this history, so we might have to give him a special award. Again, thank you very much for coming. Congratulations to all the inductees. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
And we have about 1,000 student athletes students that pass here every day. So this Athletic Hall of Fame wall now sets a standard, and it sets a goal for our kids. They walk by and they ask, hey, Mr. Ansbach, what's it going to be like? How can I get on the Athletic Hall of Fame? First thing I say is, well, watch the YouTube video from PCTV. You can hear our inductee speeches. But then the second thing, it turns into conversations, and we talk about the sacrifices, dedication, and what it's like to be a teammate. And organically, this wall has created some great conversations, but it's because of you inductees and the Athletic Hall of Fame. So again, congratulations. We ask the inductees to get a group picture in front of this, and have a great day. Thank you.
I'm here with Kathy Joe Winterbottom, and Kathy, maybe you could share maybe a memory or a situation that you reflect on now, a couple years removed from Pottsgrove, that maybe you could share with us that you didn't share in your speech.
Well, like I'm sure like most of the inductees in the past and present, the teammates, the camaraderie. I shared in the speech how we always had a losing record until my senior year in all three sports, and we stuck together. So the camaraderie and the teamwork, that no matter, we knew we weren't good, but we kept going.
I'm here with one of our newer inductees, Jimmy Sermonero, three-sport athlete. And Jimmy, maybe you'd share with us something that we didn't hear earlier in your speech, but a special time or a moment or a memory that you still have from Pottsgrove.
Yeah, sure. You know, one of the biggest things was practice. And to quote Allen Iverson, we talking about practice. Competitors, the competition at practice was just something that really made playing on Fridays that much easier. You're going up against guys like Jermaine Thaxton and Mike Ramirez. It was a war out there, and you know, we took it seriously. We worked hard, and you know, our reward was playing on Friday Night Lights. So something like that was one of the, you know, it's a memory that, you know, I have for the rest of my life.
I'm here with Jermaine Thaxton, one of our newest members of the Pottsgrove Athletic Hall of Fame. And Jermaine, maybe you could share like one little memory or a situation or something that you didn't share with us earlier, but something that you kind of like want to remember a little bit about Pottsgrove and your time here.
I want to talk about the Pottsgrove rushing record that I broke my senior year, which has now been broken about 4 times over. We were playing against Great Valley, and I needed maybe 90-something yards, 93 yards to break the record, and I ended up with 2-something and like 3 or 4 touchdowns. It was a great time. I never expected to be in that position coming from where I came from, playing Little League as a lineman. To be breaking a high school rushing record is unbelievable. So that was my time.
That's great. Thank you. I'm here with our inductees, our head soccer coach, Jay Wikowski, and our senior captain of the 2008 team, Nathan Krieger. And maybe you fellas can share just a kind of a quick memory that we didn't really talk about at the speech, but you know, we didn't get to hear from all the players, but maybe something that kind of stands out in that season or their career here.
I would have to say the district championship, winning the district championship, kind of put this program on the map. I don't think people knew who Pottsgrove soccer was, and when we got there and beating Holy Ghost 2-0 in that final really put us on the map, and I think it helped for years to come after that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my biggest memories is actually the semifinal versus, was it Owen? No, it was Boyertown, right? Where we lost my senior year. Yeah. I actually got hit in the head, concussion, or kind of semi-concussion. I went back in. But I got out of the game, and within 10, 15 minutes, we got scored on. And we were never able to recoup that. And just not being in the game for that crucial, vital moment fueled me as a leader. Kind of really wanted to galvanize these guys. Like like they were saying earlier, like we took practice like it was no joke for 2 weeks leading up to the districts, and we knew what we had to do. We knew we had to win a championship and make a very far run, or we would have never been remembered. Like, we were such a great team. We were awesome together. A lot of us grew up playing together from like 8, 9 years old. But I knew if we didn't have a title to our name or any of that, that none of this ever would have happened, and yeah, we never would have been remembered. So that's what I remember.
2023 class.